And we're live.
Hey everybody, Capt Ron here. Going through a bit of a voice change or another turn of puberty. I don't know which one it is. I'm assuming it's the former. So Dieter and I here, obviously live again tonight for this week's episode of Fearless Flight Live. We're holding down the fort. Diane had a little bit of a medical procedure, and Eric is down. He was planning to be back. He's down in Cozumel, hopefully having a good time. And so it'll be up to Dieter and I to
As
stick
he
with you.
calls it, he is doing some fishy business.
Okay. Okay. So we're glad to be here with you. I will put my screen up there and see if we can't. Of course, it never shows the one that I prompted.
There we go.
And so, welcome, Fearless Flight Live. It's our weekly show. If you're here, it means you are afraid to fly, or have some issues with flying, or you know somebody, or you just like to keep up with the aviation industry. Whatever the reason, we're happy to have you, and we hope, as always, you'll lend some questions and comments. Whether you're watching us live or watching the replay, we value the comments and in your participation. I am a bit up under the weather. I will tell you about we were trying to have a guest. I flew 3/4 of the way around the world over the weekend to escort an elite VIP student back to his homeland in the Philippines. He's been over here for 35 years, and he decided he wanted to move back home and kind of reset his life. And so it's a great story, and he made it. And so I'll share a little bit on his behalf here coming up. And we want to talk, of course, we want to mention the Fearless Flight Birds of a Feather private Facebook group. And Dieter has a little bit of an announcement to go along with that.
Yeah, it's just if you're not a member yet, you definitely ought to consider joining. We've had some really powerful and moving posts, but one of them that stuck out is Avery. She just recently went on a cruise. Problem was she had to get there, and she was all nervous about flying until she realized she's never been on a cruise, and a cruise ship is a little bit like an airplane, meaning that once you're on, you can't get off. And lo and behold, that seemed to have helped with her fear of flying, because all of a sudden she said she was much more engrossed in worrying about being on the ship while being on the flight, and she didn't really notice her fear of flying. So I guess one of the morals of the story that she shared is, when you book your next flight, make whatever you're going to even more challenging. Well, aside from that, she had a great time. She used the tools that she has learned here at Fearless Flight, and not only on her flights, but also on the cruise. And she had a great time, and all the love and support, and also the people that see themselves in her journey. It was just amazing to go through all the comments. So if you haven't joined yet, definitely join our Birds of a Feather Facebook group.
For sure. And that is something that comes up often, and with people going on a cruise. I've been matter of fact with Allie, who was on as our guest a couple weeks ago. One of the things was she was a little bit having some anticipatory anxiety about the confines of a cruise ship. She'd never been on a cruise, didn't know what to expect and all that. So she did get a balcony apartment, which helps. You have a little bit of a 3-foot by 4-foot place you can stand outside the room and look at the ocean. So that seemed to help her and all that. But it is a consideration for people. And I don't know why this refuses to come up. But so moving on tonight, We're going to, in the absence of my special guest, Jan, I will describe, give you a little bit of a travelogue, what happened. And then Don Calvert asked me this afternoon if I could talk a little bit about surviving long flights since I had just been on one. So I thought that might pretty well.
Perfect.
Unfortunately for Southwest, they made the news again about a week and a half ago. We'll talk about that. It is kind of related to the last two incidents that happened. We'll give you the highlights of the upcoming 201 monthly live coaching webinar this Thursday. And we say it often, but if you have ever thought about joining us for one of our monthly coaching sessions, this would be a great one, because this is really going to be the meat of the issue. And that is, how do you quiet your mind? Think about it. If it weren't for the things that goes on up here in your mind, no matter what it is, claustrophobia, anticipatory anxiety of any sort, takeoff, turbulence, if it weren't for this part up here, and you could distract yourself, you wouldn't have an issue. So we're going to talk about quieting the noise and give you some practical applications, practical things that you can do to successfully get through your flights up there. And I'll touch on some of the special things that I did with Jan this week. If you've been following me at all, you know that I was out of my house for over 4 months. Came back just last week, and I went to play pickleball this morning. I've been kind of under the weather for the entire time, which made it more challenging. But I came back from playing pickleball, was cooking, and noticed some water on the floor. Turns out my water line that they just reinstalled in my freezer ice maker broke, and so I had to rip up the kitchen floor again, or at least me and the project manager. So I firmly believe in sharing my misery, and maybe it helps lighten the load. I got this from someone. I thought it was cute. Southwest flight attendant told us fasten our seatbelts because the captain just saw Top Gun and wants to try something. We had our own variations of that when I was flying actively. And so, okay, so let's talk a little bit about the trip to the Philippines. Holy cow. One of those things and that you don't want to get ill for. And sure enough, about the third day into my upper respiratory, whatever it was, I took the all-nighter from Phoenix to be in place in JFK the following night, because our departure was 0140 in the morning on the 19th. And so coughed all the way up there. I was joking that I think people who were sitting on either side of me probably would have welcomed anyone with a crying infant over me, because it was just really a disaster. I coughed most of the way, got up there, spent all day. We hopped on an airplane then on our journey over to the Philippines. 16 hours and 50 minutes later, we landed in Manila, and Jan was excited. Here we are about to board the airplane, and he did just really fantastic. And I'll play just a little bit of this is right after about 15 minutes into the flight. He's a quiet, gentle soul, and it was a joy to fly with him. And for him, the main thing is just the first literally 5 minutes of the flight. And he told me my main purpose for being there was to somehow keep him from getting off the airplane, because it was very difficult, and he wanted to do that. He managed to stay on, bless his heart. We just talked through some of the things, answered questions while we were sitting there until we finally got to the pushback. And then when we got airborne, the anxiety peaked. And the thing that he did, he listened to the harmonizer, he put the harmonizer on, and that was game, set, and match. He was able to listen to the audio, which is a mixture of prose, poetry, and music, and totally distracting for many people. That's why we get such a positive vibe and feedback from people about the Fearless Flight Harmonizer, which is part of the Fearless Flight kit. If you have a flight coming up and you don't have any time to do anything else, consider that. And if you maybe a coaching session. but it's remarkable how well that works. And he swears by it and will always use that whenever he flies, at least until he gets more comfortable with it. Anyways, 15 minutes into the flight, by the time we get to the upper parts of cruise and level off, he had experienced a really, really relaxed experience, and that was it. And we just did what you do over the long distance, which I'm going to touch on what do you do for those things. Here he is walking over to give me some money. I spent 24 hours there after being on an airplane for almost 17, and then I boarded the airplane the following morning. Manila reminded me a lot of growing up in the Midwest. The temperature was about 90 and the humidity was about 95. Oh my goodness. You just stand there in 2 minutes. You just soaked with sweat standing outside any air conditioning there. And it's quite the experience, as you can imagine. But he's really happy. His cousin met him at the airport and picked him up, and he's basically resetting after 35 years in the United States. So it was fun and very gratifying to watch him achieve that objective there. So let's move on from that, since Jan couldn't make it tonight, and talk about surviving long flights. And I just made some notes here and that should be medications. Let me change that slide there.
Well, you might have to mediate with your inner voice.
That's true. Yeah. It's amazing how close that is. Okay. So that should be, oops, didn't want to do that. Okay. So first and foremost, and I didn't put this in here, but in your pre-flight planning, you'll be able to know what kind of an airplane you're going to have. And that's not an issue in terms of worrying about the safety and all that. What it is an issue is what kind of entertainment system are you going to have? What kind of ability, because now the airplanes are all configured to have some kind of support electronically. And that can vary from just a Wi-Fi that you can watch on a portable device to a seat panel or a video screen in the seat back. We rode in Philippine Airlines, which is my first time flying on that carrier. It was a pleasant experience. On the way over, we had a really, really new Airbus A350, twin engines. It holds up to about I think 295 people. We were about I'd say about 90% full. And they had an interesting thing I noticed when they sent me the updates. You can actually, if it must be when they're not full, they will let you purchase seats adjacent to you, and they put a little highlight in there that says, enjoy the whole row to yourself. So when I got on there, yes, there were some seats, some seats and rows with only one person in them. And so I didn't have the courage. I should have asked a couple of people whether they purchased that or just randomly assigned, because if nobody joins, you're going to get it for free anyway if you happen to be in that row. But I'm guessing that if they have the ability and they're not full, that they squeeze a little bit more revenue out. I don't know how much it was. I didn't try it, to get yourself an extra seat. Might be worth it. Give yourself, especially if you're not, if you can't afford riding in either business or first class. So medications, you want to make sure that you have, oh, I'm sorry, I'm talking about baggage. So we were allowed up to 2 carry-on or 2 checked bags in the price of the airfare. And then you could carry 2 personal belongings on. And that could be a purse and a suitcase, be a purse and a backpack. You only get 2 things. And I have one of those new slings that I have, which is very handy for me, especially traveling international. I can put my passport, my wallet. I can keep a little bit better tabs on it security wise. And it's handy to get my passport out as many times as you're called upon to do that when you check in. At any rate, when you go to get on the airplane, Doggone Airlines, they make you put that. If I had a backpack and a bag that I was putting in the overhead, and then I had this sling on, and Philippine Airlines said nothing. American from Phoenix to New York, they made me pack it in there because they counted it as a third personal item. So it kind of irritates me, but whatever. Okay, so now medications. You want to make sure you're having your medications on you so that you can get access to them either in your carry-on luggage or your backpack, whatever you're going to put under the seat, whatever you prefer. And then I'm kind of a big nut about electronics. So in my pre-flight planning, I do take a look at the airplane because it'll tell you what kind of accessories it has. Both airplanes had a video monitor in the back with in-flight entertainment, unlike on a Southwest airplane where you don't have that. If you download the airline's app, then you can access their Wi-Fi and their in-flight entertainment. And that's another thing here. You want to make sure that you download the airline's app for the airline that you're about to fly on, particularly if you're going for an extended period of time. So you make sure you got that. Electronics, you look at what they offer. On the flight on the A350 going over, we actually had a USB port up here, and they pass out to everyone. They pass out a personal set of earbuds. I think you would be much better off, especially if you're listening to the harmonizer for any portion of the flight, in order to carry your own earphones. Now, I happen to have the super earbuds, the big Sony or big Apple ones, but where that doesn't work is it does not have a cable because it's wireless, so it does not have a cable to plug into the jack there. So next time, and I have another one in there, but it turns out it was not serviceable, and I'm gonna replace it. But so you want to consider having your own either earbuds or earphones that even if they are wireless, make sure that they have, it helps if they have a wire capability, so you can now listen to the in-flight entertainment through the aircraft system on your personal devices, because all you get is these cheap little headsets, and they pick up all kinds of outside noise. It's very distracting, particularly on the airplane coming back, which was a little older. Okay, so then in addition to that, I make sure I've got either my laptop or a tablet, and when I'm going on a long haul like I did, I take both. So I take my iPad and my MacBook Pro, so that if I want to work, particularly, I use that a lot in the airport. I'm just more comfortable on a laptop than I am on my phone, checking reservations and things like that, and anything that comes up where I need access to the internet in the boarding area. And accordingly, then if you've looked at the what kind of airplane it's going to be, they should give you the detail, whether they'll say I have a USB. Some of the modern airplanes have actual plug-ins that you can plug in a 110 type plug, and you can power things from that. I always carry extra batteries. I carry, so I don't have to hook up at all to the airplane, because in some cases it doesn't work. And that was the case coming back. On the way back, we were on a Boeing 777, which is a big, wonderful modern airplane. But this one was an older airplane. And so we had a plug-in down below, which is very difficult to see, first of all, because you can't bend over enough in economy to even see the thing. So I had to kind of feel with my hands and reach down and run the plug alongside with my hand there. And it was old and loose, so that the thing would fall out. But I had a USB plug and I had a 3-prong plug, or receptacle there. So whatever it has on the airplane, adjust accordingly. In addition to that, I take my own entertainment. If I want to, I will download some downloads that I may want off of Netflix or Apple TV, whatever entertainment system I prefer. And so that's the bulk. You can see where my head is. I'm making sure that I got stuff to do on that flight for the long haul. And particularly if you are anxious, you want to make sure that you can use the harmonizer, so you want it on your phone. Okay. As I mentioned, downloads you may want to watch. A snack, I take some grapes and stuff just to keep me. And I try not to eat the snacks that they have in the airplane. For me, I don't need the extra calories, even though it's small. And when I'm on a flight that's more than 6 to 8 hours, I try to stay awake initially until the meal is served, because likely you'll have two meals, as we did, going over and coming back to LA. So they'll serve one meal about an hour and a half to 2 hours into the flight. They'll serve the first meal, and then they'll back off. The lights will go down, and then they'll allow you to sleep. So on our way over there, we virtually had darkness the entire way, because we're tracking with the rotation of the, or against the rotation of the Earth, and so we're staying in the darkness. Coming back from LA, we came back and we went through darkness, and then we arrived in the morning again. And but they pretty much, everybody now cooperates by pulling all the shades down, so you have no idea whether it's day or night unless you're a window seat and you can open that up. Okay, so then for a long flight like we had, then about 2 hours prior to landing, they're gonna offer those people who wish breakfast and or a second meal. And so if you can time it, whatever you're doing, sleeping, entertaining in the meantime, if you can time it so that you wake up about a couple hours prior to landing and take advantage of the meal surface if you want. And then from that, I pretty much stay awake the rest of the time. I'll watch some entertainment on the seat back. I will pick up all my stuff, start gathering it up, check for my personal belongings, all that, and I will try to use the restroom at least a half hour to an hour prior to landing. Because once you land, it takes a while and there are restrooms there, but in LA, you got to walk about a mile from the gate to the customs entry area down below at the airport there. Okay, that's it. Unless I'll stop, Dieter. I don't know if you have any questions or anything about that. Otherwise, we'll
Well, the one thing that I put in chat, and you and I hadn't talked about that before, I have this little dongle, and I put the link in, the Amazon link in the chat, where basically when I go on international flights, it allows you to plug into the entertainment system, but then it's like a Bluetooth transmitter, so you can use your AirPods, and that's been really, really handy and works quite well. And then Oliver is saying,
so let me check. Yeah. So is that in with the seat back entertainment?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. So you put it into the USB or you put it into the jack?
No, in the 3.5 millimeter jack.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Yeah. In the plug-in. Okay. Got it.
Exactly. It's just a little dongle, and then you just connect to to your headphones, AirPods, or whatever you have, with Bluetooth. So that's a really handy thing that I really like, because like you said, you have your wireless headphones, but there's no way to face them.
Yeah. And then, sound is important to me on an airplane. Yeah. I mean, if you're listening, it really ruins it for me if you get all the aircraft noise and all that. And that's why I like the Mac earphones, because they have a white noise thing, and it is quiet in there. It's amazing. And I put it on even when I'm not listening to anything, just to block out the noise. So
yeah, for sure.
You will get a kit with a little sleeping mask and whatnot in there as well.
And you also get some other tips, like it is helpful if you can book first class to have the extra room, right? Especially on a longer flight. And if Kimberly, who congratulations to you, Kimberly, that's awesome, who just flew recently, successfully, I might add. And Don is asking, how did you manage to push through the long moments when the flight probably felt like it was an eternity? So that's directly at you, Ron.
And of course, it's where your head is, and so I felt really not good at all, and I did have Jan to rely on and talk with, at least getting on the airplane. But it was one of those flights for me. It was like, all I want to do is get over this and get to a hotel and get some regular sleep. But the flight, even so, I was able to sleep a little bit on there. And the biggest thing I do is I plan I don't plan in detail what I'm going to watch, but I got a variety of stuff. And I always check to see what they have on their entertainment system. And they'll, almost all of them now have movies, some more current, some classic ones. They'll have TV shows and series, some contemporary ones and some classic ones. And then they'll have music. They'll have a music channel, so you can rely on that. But I empathize with you because I mean it's the longest flight I've ever been on. I had a couple of 16-hour ones, but this was 16 hours and 30 minutes, and it's a long time, let me tell you. But the main thing is I just kind of scheduled it a couple hours, messed around, and it's easy to kill the first couple hours there because they're bringing you a drink service and things like that, and then they're going to bring you the meal, and once you get done with that, that's about 3 hours, and now you only got 13 to go. So now I just watched some entertainment until I felt myself getting drowsy and I thought I could sleep, so I tried. And of course I'm in a chair, and on the flight coming back, even the regular economy had the little drop down whatever you call it for your feet, a foot bar down there, so you could do that. But anyway, so I don't have any secrets other than having a general idea and making sure that I've got stuff with me that will be interesting to me. And the other thing I didn't mention, but I do a lot of podcasts, and so sometimes it's better for me to read an audiobook or listen to a podcast. And you need to make sure that those are downloaded on your device before, because when you get up there, you won't be able to stream it and load it onto there. And neither of the Philippine Airlines segments did they have the where you could go into the app and use the Wi-Fi, which was surprising to me. So they had an onboard Wi-Fi, but I couldn't get it to work to send messages and whatnot. So which is not
you just mentioned segmenting, and I think that really is the key. And so just like an Olympic athlete, what you want to do is you want to kind of like visualize yourself through the different segments. And like I remember, even if like Ron and myself, I guess having been in the military, for both of us, we don't have any problem sleeping whenever we get the chance. But for my wife, when it's a longer flight and she doesn't really sleep, but even scheduling rest periods where you have your eyes closed, maybe some of your the music that you listen to when you can't sleep at home, so you have these segments already planned out. That is absolutely key, because if you just walk on and hope to somehow wing it 16 hours, it's a very 10 hours is already a long time.
Absolutely.
Mind to be idle and wondering what to do. So
and a couple of things. One of the things that I noticed, and it reminded me of being in Europe last summer, both the two previous summers. Some carriers in some countries, when you go through security, very intense security, you get through and you arrive at the boarding area, and they have some concessions around there. But Philippine Airlines, as did some of I can't remember the carriers over in Europe that I wrote on, you get through there, and they have an additional security requirement to go through screening with the metal detectors and all that. And so what was frustrating, so I just bought a bottle of water and a bottle of juice, and and they're checking me into the area because the boarding area is somewhat segregated, and they have plexiglass around it. So in order to get in there, you have to show your documentation again, and they alert you can't carry the water in. So if they would just put a doggone sign up that says, be aware, you got to consume this beverage before you get on your flight. So that was a surprise. But what I did do is I kept the bottle for both legs. It was really important for me to be hydrated that long, because you can get really dried out, and it helped me not cough as much. But anyway, so what I do, and the flight attendants are real accommodating. I got up multiple times, take a little stroll, because on a wide body you got two aisles, so it's not as tough moving up and down the aisle. And then I took my water bottle with me, and periodically I would go ask the flight attendant. They during the long segments where everybody's sleeping, they'd be just killing time in the galley area. And I would ask, and they just fill up the water bottle. It was much easier than having to try to catch them and get a little bitty glass of water periodically. So that's another just a little technique, is to take an empty water bottle, or a full one if you don't have to go through security again and lose it, but keep a water bottle handy so that you can refill that instead of trying to rely on the other there. So anyway, but certainly doable. And I found the time, even as miserable as I felt, I found the time went fairly rapidly. And again, so it's not exactly knowing what I'm going to do, but as Dieter and I are saying, it's a group of things, groups, blocks of entertainment, things, reading, listening to music, looking at TV shows or movies, things like that, knowing that, and then I let my mood dictate what I want to do and whether I'm tired or not. And that worked out really well. And of course, you can stop it and pause it, go to sleep, and wake up again and do it all that. So it's a place to catch up on all the soap operas or whatever it is that is your thing. So anyway, all right. So we had, moving on without, in the absence of any questions. Once again, Southwest has excelled. And whoops, didn't take the one on. They made the news again. How did they do that? They had an incident just like the two previous ones. The most recent one before this was the Oklahoma City event, where the crew was executing a visual approach, which means they're responsible for their own altitude and course guidance to the airport and to land safely. And of course, the headline was FAA investigating Southwest flight that came 175 feet from the water. Actually, was as close to 150 feet over a bridge. They were going into Tampa from Columbus. And the other thing you want to, I didn't want to do that. The other thing you want to be aware of is be very wary of this. It's the latest in a string of Boeing 737 MAX incidents. So they're playing on your fears. It had nothing to do with the Boeing 737 MAX. Yes, it was a Boeing 737 MAX, but it's going to be borne out as a crew error. And so, so don't, again, fall into the trap of thinking, oh, there's a 737 MAX again. It could have been a Piper Aero Club, if it could have been anything, because it was a pilot error there. And so what happened? So this is the you can just barely see. This is the Tampa airport, and we're going to the east. We're going to land basically to the east, and this is their profile along the way with times and altitudes and all that. And you can see the runway up here. There's one, and I'll show that. Let me move ahead real quick. So they're going to land on this runway. They're coming in from the left side of the screen here, and they're going to land going this way. And so when you look at that, they're coming in, and there's water here. There's a big bridge called the Courtney Campbell Causeway Bridge. And then there's the airport over there. And it was raining around there. They had about 3 miles visibility, which isn't terribly low, but it definitely affects it, because out in here they're more than 3 miles away from the runway. So that they're descending, they can see the ground, they can see clear clouds and all that. But I believe it was, I don't know, see what time of the day was. It was 23:05 UTC. I can't remember whether it was dark or not, but anyway, the visibility was down. So they started to descend here. They had been cleared for the visual approach. Again, that makes them personally responsible for their separation from the ground and aligning with the runway. And what it looks like is they may have seen the bridge in the distance and started their descent to the bridge, because when they got down there, their first alert was they got the audible warning from the airplane: too low, pull up, and altitude is the first warning they got. And then shortly thereafter that, the controller noticed it and said, Southwest, understand you'd like to go around. You can hear a hesitation on the tape, and they say, Roger. And then they went around, and then they elected to go to Fort Lauderdale, which was their alternate. Again, pilot error, most likely. And the thing that we emphasize, and you can't emphasize enough, is when you have, even if it's completely clear and there's not an obstruction or restriction of visibility anywhere, pardon me, it's highly advisable for the crew to have an instrument approach as a backup so that you get course alignment, you get altitude suggestions, and you can pace yourself in a much, because when you're flying in an airplane, it's basically doing 3 or 4 miles a minute. When you get down close to configuring for landing, things happen in a hurry down there. And this is as another case where the crew made a mistake and didn't do that. Here's another view of that. And I just circled the area where they ended up too low for the phase of flight that they were in, thinking that this was the runway up here, the runway environment that they were descending into. And more likely than not, it was a bridge down there. And they came 150 feet from the water, but they came about 175 feet or 150 feet from the bridge. And again, they were in no danger of hitting that or hitting the ground or anything. They were just descending it prematurely when they didn't have to. And it's unfortunate, and there will be there'll be some stuff that happens out of there. And this is what happened on the go around. They got up, and then they took a clearance to the Fort Lauderdale airport, which was their alternate in the event they wouldn't have been able to land there. And the weather might have been deteriorating and the visibility down. They just elected to go to their alternate at that point. All right. Now, so if you have any questions about that, feel free to ask, leave some notes. And we're nearing the end here. Just want to highlight for you that once again, this is going to be one of the best ones that I've ever done, or that we've ever had. And we called it stopping the noise, changing the things you say to yourself. And this is more about the inner voice and what role it plays. It's like so much of our mind and our warning systems. It's designed for a reason, but when it is overactive, it can cause problems and needless anxiety. So we're going to talk about things that run through your mind. We'll probably have a little bit of a mock flight on that, and we'll be talking about techniques. One being a way to distance your self-talk. That's actually a technique that has been discovered through research, and we're going to talk about that and give you some hard things that you can do. So please consider joining us, especially if you've never done it before. Dieter, I'm sure, has put the link in there to sign up for that, and consider joining us every month. It's 47 if you just want to do one, but if you do it monthly, it's 30, as low as 37. You can there's levels in there, including a lifetime. Take a look at that. And the thing to remember is that this is something that it will be very, very relevant information for your next flight and for flights beyond that. So we sure hope that you can join us and ask what questions you have and follow through on the evening there. It'll be full of information, and I think you'll really enjoy it. Anything to add?
I just want to add to that, because we often hear about the different videos that you guys find on YouTube or the blog posts where travelers or others who are sharing their tips on how to overcome fear of flying, and totally encourage you to watch all of that. And yet, one of the things that, if you've followed us, that the pain in your brain is not about the plane. And so the importance is not just to have hacks, but to actually have a strategy that really can help you. I'm going to say, take the fuel out of that engine that is fueling the anxiety that you experience the closer you get to your flight. And we're not here to tell you that you'll never experience it, but we're definitely here to encourage you and remind you that you absolutely have the power within you to change the way you think about flying, and therefore change your experience while you're doing it. So
yeah, it's well said, Dieter. And one of the things one of the new things that we've been developing behind the scenes, that I've had 3 students try it out. So far, I got another one that's about to go to France, and I'm sure we're going to be able to get him to come back on the show as a guest and tell us how it went. But I'm doing some of our NeuroSync guided visualizations, and they're custom. So it involves a discount, and in there you get the coaching session and a custom guided visualization, and we'll have details on that as well. So several people have taken me up on that, and I've gotten feedback from 2 people that said it absolutely positively helped them in response to what Don said. How do you get through that whole lengthy flight? It's part of the plan. So if you fail to plan, you're planning to fail. You've got to have some strategy in mind and some tools in your toolkit, and you can do it. And like so many people have found, if you can get through the first 15 minutes, the rest of it is usually much less challenging. Okay, so I'm about shot voice wise, and so I'm going to quit. And unless you have anything else to, thanks everybody.
I just Dr. Lori says hi to you.
Oh yeah, hey, okay, Dr. Lori, we've been talking, and you've been threatening me again. You're gonna work on it. So let me know what I can do to support you. I remember you well. We talked at length. Oh my gosh, I think it was pre-pandemic, but whatever. It doesn't matter how long ago it was. What's important is right now. So I'm looking forward to working with you, and we will be coming up with a flight in September, October, out of the LA area. We just got to put that on our list of
fingers crossed it'll be in the Air Hollywood one. So
yeah, exactly. We'll try to do that again. So anyway, thanks everybody for showing up this week. It's been another episode. Thanks for your participation, and we'll be back again next week for another episode of Fearless Flight Live. Have a great week, everybody. Bye-bye.